Welcome to this deep dive. Let's just settle in for a moment here and think about something. Something quite fundamental, really. These unseen walls that, so often seem to box us in, define what's possible for us. Imagine, maybe, an inner garden, incredibly fertile, just brimming with potential you might not even fully see yet.
Yeah.
But what if, kind of without realizing it, you've been putting up senses, barriers around this space, keeping the light out, limiting its growth? Have you ever felt that? Like something's just holding you back from really blossoming?
It's quite striking, isn't it, how these walls, they're rarely made of, actual brick and mortar.
Right.
Instead, they seem woven from our thoughts, our beliefs about ourselves, about the world.
Right.
And because they're internal, they can become so familiar we mistake them for just the way things are.
Yeah, like the natural boundaries.
Exactly. Not recognizing them as the limitations they actually are.
That's such a crucial point for us to consider. It reminds me of, a core idea in Buddhist thinking. This inherent completeness we all have right from birth. Like the Buddha, actually. Not meaning divine, but just already having the full capacity for awakening, for, boundless growth. So the question becomes, what's creating this feeling of being limited then? Where does that come from?
Well, think about the story of Siddhartha Gautama for a moment. His early life was contained by physical walls, wasn't it?
The palace, yeah.
The palace, this very controlled environment designed to protect him. But his real journey, his path to enlightenment, it truly began when he stepped outside those walls.
When he saw reality.
When he encountered existence, yes. And it was then, really, that he understood the real prisons weren't the outer barriers, but the inner ones. Ignorance, attachment.
That feeling of being stuck as a fixed self.
Precisely. That illusion. So what invisible walls might you, listening now, be living within?
That really makes you pause, doesn't it? And think about your own life. What are those invisible walls? Maybe it's that hesitation before trying something new, or worrying what people might think if you step outside the usual, or maybe just that nagging inner voice whispering, "You're not good enough." Can you relate to any of that?
And that naturally leads us to think about, well, where do these barriers start? From a Buddhist viewpoint, they're built from our own thoughts, the beliefs we've sort of accepted as truth.
Things we've picked up along the way.
Exactly. The conditioning we've gathered through life. These aren't solid facts, you understand. They're more like interpretations, stories maybe that we've internalized, perhaps unconsciously, and now we live by them.
Okay, let's dig into that a bit. How these walls are kept up. Let's look at karma. Now that word karma, it can sometimes feel a bit heavy, right? Like cosmic punishment or something.
Yes, it often carries that weight.
But the Buddhist understanding, as we're learning, it's much more subtle. It operates differently.
That's right. Karma, at its core, is really just the principle of cause and effect. How it relates to our actions, our words, and maybe most importantly for this conversation, our thoughts and intentions.
So not some outside judge keeping score.
No, not at all. It's more the natural consequence, the outcome of the seeds we plant with our own mind.
Okay, so how does that connect back to these walls we build around our potential? How does cause and effect play in?
Well, think about it like this. If you consistently hold on to negative or limiting beliefs, thoughts like, oh, I'm bound to fail, or I don't really deserve that, you are, in a way, planting seeds.
Seeds of negativity.
Seeds of negativity, yes, within your own consciousness. And these seeds, if you keep watering them with repetition, they eventually take root. They grow, they become patterns.
Patterns of behavior.
Exactly, patterns that then reinforce the very limitations you started with.
It's almost like that image of a forest, isn't it? The more you avoid going into the unknown because you're convinced it's dangerous, the thicker and denser that mental forest becomes until you truly believe there's just no path through. Does that resonate with you?
It does, very much. What might begin as just a tiny seed of doubt can, over time, grow into what feels like an insurmountable wall.
Yeah.
But, and this is the really empowering part of understanding karma, this process works both ways. Just as negative intentions build limitations, positive intentions, conscious actions, they can start to dismantle them.
So every time you, challenge that limiting thought or take even a small step outside that comfort zone you've built.
Yes. You're essentially planting a different kind of seed then.
A seed of courage, maybe? Resilience.
Exactly those things. Think about a time recently you pushed past a hesitation, even a small one. How did that feel afterwards?
Usually pretty good, actually. A sense of accomplishment.
Right. And with consistent care, consistent attention, these positive seeds can genuinely transform the landscape inside. gradually replacing that thorny undergrowth of doubt with something more like a flourishing garden of opportunity.
That's a much more hopeful picture. So where do you even start? How do you begin to even see these walls clearly enough to start, taking them down bit by bit? What's the first step?
The foundation, really, from a Buddhist perspective, is cultivating awareness.
Awareness. Okay.
And this isn't just noticing the world outside, it's about intentionally turning your attention inward, becoming attuned to the subtle workings of your own mind.
You mean really noticing that constant chatter, the internal dialogue that's always going on, the stories we tell ourselves.
Precisely that. Becoming aware of the narrative shaping your view, the fears driving your choices, the habits of thought that keep you feeling, well, stuck.
Oh.
And one of the effective ways to develop this inner awareness is mindfulness meditation. Have you ever explored any mindfulness practices?
A little bit, yeah. But for someone totally new to it, how does that kind of meditation actually help with these walls we're talking about?
Well, mindfulness meditation gives you a dedicated space, a time, to simply observe your thoughts without judging them.
Just watch them.
Just watch them. When you sit quietly and witness the flow, you start noticing the recurring themes, the worries, the self-criticisms, the doubts. But the key thing here is not to try and push them away or get lost in them, but just to acknowledge they're there as they arise and as they pass.
It sounds like watching clouds drift by. You just notice them without trying to grab onto one or change its shape.
That's a perfect analogy, exactly. And by consistently observing your thoughts, your feelings in this detached way, you start to realize something crucial.
Absolutely.
That your thoughts aren't necessarily facts, they aren't absolute truths.
Ah.
They're more like transient events, temporary weather patterns in the vast sky of your mind. And this act, this simple, non-judgmental observation, it starts to weaken their grip on you.
That makes a lot of sense, because when you're totally caught up in a thought, especially a negative one, it feels so incredibly real, doesn't it? So solid.
Yes, all-encompassing.
But if you can step back just a little and observe it, it seems like it would lose some of its emotional power, its authority.
Precisely. And this growing awareness, this space, can lead to a really profound shift. Think about a common thought. I could never do that.
Oh yeah, heard that one before.
Haven't we all? Perhaps when you see someone else achieving something you admire, or when you think about trying something really new and challenging.
Definitely. That little voice of self-doubt pipes up pretty reliably for most of us, I think.
And what's truly revealing is to just pause for a moment and gently ask, where did that thought come from? Is it based on solid evidence, real past failures? Or is it maybe rooted more in just a fear of the unknown? Or maybe it's just the limiting story you've been carrying around for ages.
Right.
And even more importantly, what might happen if, just for a second, you chose not to automatically buy into that thought? If you explored the possibility, however small that may be, maybe it isn't entirely true.
That's a really powerful exercise. It really shows how often these limits we feel are just assumptions, aren't they? Assumptions we've just accepted as truth without really questioning them.
And the whole process of breaking free, dismantling these self-made barriers, brick by brick, it begins right there, with that questioning.
It sounds like it takes patience, though.
Oh, it requires patience, yes. And consistent effort, like tending that garden we talked about. You don't tear down a strong wall overnight.
Right.
But each conscious moment of awareness, each gentle inquiry into whether a limiting belief is actually valid, it gradually weakens the structure.
It's fascinating how these, ancient ideas seem to echo so clearly in modern psychology, too. Like Carol Dweck's work on fixed versus growth mindset.
Indeed. The parallels are quite striking, aren't they?
Yeah.
A fixed mindset essentially operates on the belief that your abilities, your intelligence, they're mostly static. You're either good at something or you're not. End of story.
Right, carved in stone.
Whereas a growth mindset embraces the idea that your capabilities can actually be developed, expanded, through dedication, through effort, through learning from mistakes.
So how does that connect back to the Buddhist ideas we were discussing? Letting go and so on.
Well, if you think about the Buddhist focus on letting go of attachment, in this case, it would be attachment to a fixed idea of yourself or your abilities. You can see a beautiful alignment there.
Okay.
A fixed mindset is often tangled up with fear of failure, fear of not measuring up. It's clinging to an identity. I am good at this, or I am not good at that.
I see.
A growth mindset, much like the Buddhist understanding of impermanence, of constant change, embraces fluidity. It embraces the possibility of ongoing learning, evolution. Your potential isn't this fixed thing. It's something you can actively cultivate. You can expand.
And it feels like this isn't just about your own personal liberation, is it? There's this sense in Buddhist teachings that when one person breaks free, it ripples outwards somehow.
Absolutely. That principle of interconnectedness is fundamental. We're not isolated islands.
Right.
When you begin to dismantle your own internal barriers, it genuinely creates a ripple effect. It extends beyond just you. Your courage to face a fear might just inspire someone else to face theirs. Your growth can become a quiet source of encouragement for people around you who might feel stuck themselves.
It makes me think of that saying, be the change you wish to see. By working on yourself, you're actually contributing to something larger.
Precisely. You
Yeah.
are part of that larger web. So let me ask you this directly, perhaps for everyone listening to Bonder. If you truly understood that by actively working to break free from your own limitations, you could potentially spark positive change in others, would you hesitate? Would you hold back from taking that first step, even if it feels small?
That's a really profound question to just sit with for a moment.
The garden of your potential, it's already there. It's waiting. The seeds of what you can become, they're ready to sprout. So the fundamental question really is this. Will you consciously choose to water those seeds with intention, with action, with this growing awareness we've talked about? Or will you allow the weeds of doubt, those limiting beliefs, to just keep taking root, keep spreading? It's a choice, a choice available in every single moment.